Oh, the ground suddenly collapses under your feet, and all you have time to do is scream. You plummet into the darkness, flailing your arms and legs. Ow! For once, you're in luck. You land on something soft. Clouds of dust kicked up by your fall don't let you see the surroundings, but you can feel your body shaking. Must be the cold and the shock from your sudden fall. After a while, you manage to find your bearings and get to your feet. You switch on the flashlight on your phone and look around. The cave-like room you've ended up in seems to be a deserted lab. You see broken laptops and other equipment, test tubes, cables, and debris all over the place. You scratch your head trying to figure out what could have happened here. Suddenly, you hear some strange rustling sound. It's coming from the darkest corner of the laboratory. You squeak and nearly jump out of your skin. Whew, just a couple of rats. Nothing too bad compared to what has already happened to you. You can't but recollect your landlord telling you to get out of the apartment you've been renting for more than 3 years. To be fair though, you indeed hadn't been paying your rent for the last several months. But that's the fault of your boss, who apparently learned a new word. Sorry, we're downsizing, he told you. The man didn't even sound apologetic. So here you are now, no home, no work, all your friends and family far away. Plus, you must have hurt your right leg during the fall. A dark, smelly cave with rats doesn't seem to be the worst of your problems. You sigh and shake your head. First, you need to find a way out, then cry over your misfortune. You carefully move deeper into the lab, trying to ignore the rats. And suddenly, you see it. The thing looks complicated. Unlike the rest of the equipment, it's clean, as if it had been brought here from another place. You come closer and gasp. The mechanism is emitting a buzzing sound. Can it mean it's working? You cautiously touch its surface, ready for an electric shock or even being turned into a frog. But nothing happens. You scoop the thing up and head further. After what feels like hours, you tumble to the ground outside the cave. Luckily, the strange machine looks undamaged. You've got a better chance to examine it in bright sunlight. Your phone still has about 25% battery life. You Google the device you've taken with you. It turns out to be a 3D printer, but much more complicated than the ones you see online. It has tons of different buttons and even several levers. You try to remember what you know about 3D printers. First of all, there must be a 3D model made in a special program. You can either create it from scratch or download whatever you need from a 3D library. After that, you need to slice this 3D model into thousands of layers. You can do that with the help of special slicing software. After the file is sliced, you can send it to the printer via Wi-Fi, SD, or USB. Then it's going to be 3D printed layer by layer. These days, you can use loads of different materials to create the final product. It can be plastic, metal, carbon fiber, resin, paper, graphite, all kinds of powder, you name it. You start to experiment with the buttons on the device's front panel. Very soon, you realize this isn't a usual 3D printer. The thing is much more advanced and complex. It has a little screen. With the help of a lever, you can choose a material you'd like to use. Also, there's a large selection of objects you can print out. You're still exploring the possibilities of your state-of-the-art printer when you accidentally press a light blue button. The device you've been easily holding in your hands starts growing in size. Soon it's too heavy for you to hold and you have to put it on the ground. It only stops expanding when it's 3 times its initial size. Curious. But first things first, your leg still hurts. You must have sprained your ankle. It would be great to give it some support. Why don't you test your device by printing yourself a cast? You choose this option on the screen. The printer buzzes for a second or two, and you notice a leg-sized opening appears in its surface. I have nothing to lose, you think, and you stick your leg into the hole. Several clicking sounds later, your leg starts to warm up. Then, silence. Around your leg, there's something lace-like and thin, but it supports your leg very well and is surprisingly strong. One problem solved. You can think about other issues, like can your stomach growl even more loudly if you don't feed it right now? You sigh. It's unlikely your printer can help you with this problem. Oh, look, it actually can. You see the word food on the display. The choice isn't very impressive, but pizza sounds just right. You pick pepperoni, and the printer gets down to work. The smell is awesome. The taste is even better. You start thinking your supposedly bad luck is actually very good luck. Now you need some transport to get out of this middle of nowhere. One thing you know for sure, a 3D printed car has already been made. It happened in 2015, when the world's first drivable car was printed and assembled live at the North American Auto Show. The vehicle, called the Stratty, was made up of 50 parts. At the same time, the average passenger car needs at least 2,000 parts. It took 44 hours to print all the 212 layers to complete the Stratty. Your 3D printer needs just a few minutes. The vehicle you've printed out is more of a sleek sports car. Soon you figure out it can reach astonishing speeds. Even better, you could turn it into a convertible if it wasn't so cold outside. But wait, surely your 3D printer can help you out. You choose the warmest fabric the device can offer, and soon wool jacket is covering your upper body. You make a mental list of all the items of clothing you've always wanted to have but didn't have enough money to buy. Finally, you arrive at the piece of land your grandparents left you many years ago. It's been standing abandoned ever since. You've never had enough time or money to build anything there. Well, the time has come. You press the already familiar blue button. The printer starts growing. Soon, it's as large as a 3-story building. You choose a design. You've always liked those wooden cabin houses with huge glass windows. It takes the printer no more than 20 minutes to finish your new home. It looks amazing, sturdy and spacious at the same time. Soon, you're already printing out the furniture. That's a good thing your printer has tons of different ideas and designs to offer. With the cabin all ready, you decide to clean the territory. You haven't been here for a while. That's why there are lots of fallen trees, branches, and other debris lying around. You pick up a large branch only to drop it a second later. It's too heavy. You start pacing in front of your house, thinking, an exoskeleton. You'll print yourself an exoskeleton. No sooner said than done. In about 10 minutes, you're 30 times stronger than you used to be. Not even a thick fallen tree is a problem for you. The next day, you print out several robots to help you around the house and in the garden. And you send out invitations to your family and friends. It's time for them to buy airline tickets and visit you in your new home. By the time they all arrive 2 weeks later, you've already built, actually printed, a large swimming pool. It's surrounded by chaise lounges and colorful patio umbrellas. All kinds of robots scurry around, serving food and drinks, everything 3D printed. You only smile enigmatically when your friends ask you when your life took such a sharp turn. One night, you can't fall asleep, buzzing with the excitement of having your dearest and nearest with you. That's when it dawns on you. Why don't you 3D print your 3D printer? A year later, you're the owner of an extremely successful corporation. You build skyscrapers, bridges, and apartment buildings. You produce equipment for factories, hospitals, and construction companies. You have a clothing manufacturing business and a large chain of print-out-your-own-food restaurants. Your next goal? Space exploration, of course. Wouldn't it be cool to build a city on Mars and a couple of theme parks on the Moon? Cold and seemingly infinite expanses of the Arctic. The white of the snow is blinding. In this vast and empty space, there's a dark dot. Getting closer, it turns out to be a small research station. One door and one window. An old antenna on the roof wobbles from the strong winds. You're sitting inside this hut in warm clothes, drinking hot tea. An electric generator hums under the table. It's connected to a TV and game console. You take the gamepad and select the video game you want to download. It's about 650 gigabytes. It seems in such a place it will download over several centuries. But you press the button and the game is downloaded on the console in less than a second. Welcome to the world with the fastest and most accessible internet. The internet already works at the speed of light. Phones use a specific frequency of radio waves that travel at the speed of light. You're watching this video using the internet at the speed of light. Most of the data is transmitted through a copper wire or fiber optic cable. This happens so fast that we won't notice the difference whether it's transmitted at the speed of light or not. Wi-Fi also uses radio frequencies to transmit signals between devices. The fact is that the speed of the internet is not about how fast a file travels from one device to another. It's about how much data is transmitted over a certain time. So, let's imagine that data of any size can be loaded at the speed of light. 300 gigabytes of several movies in 8K, 400 gigabytes of a video game with ultra-realistic graphics, 1 terabyte of a project for a graphics editing application, and all of this is downloaded to your device in 1/100th of a second. The internet is a connection between computers. For everything to work correctly, the computers connect to a router. This thing works as a controller. It makes sure that the message from one computer reaches the other without any confusion. When there are too many computers, you need more routers that connect to other routers. You can scale this network indefinitely. To connect millions of houses to the network, developers can use telephone cables. To make this complex system stable, it's served by internet service providers. They're companies that we pay money to access the internet. In simple terms, all information from the internet is transmitted via a cable directly to the Wi-Fi router. It uses radio waves to wirelessly transmit data to a computer or phone. Your devices are also equipped with an antenna that can catch and transmit signals via radio waves. The speed of the internet slows down when it goes through different routers, receivers, and other technical hurdles. The cable may be damaged. Providers limit the speed intentionally and increase it when you pay more money. Also, the speed of the internet is affected by the number of users connected to the same network. It's like a broad highway with a traffic jam. The more cars there are driving on it, the slower they move. Just like that, your data is loaded onto your devices. To spread the internet at the speed of light everywhere, developers need to improve cables data passes through. The number of networks and routers should be increased. The jammed highway will become even broader, and cars will be able to drive at full speed. Providers should remove all restrictions as well. Every mobile device and computer should have a high-frequency antenna that catches signals from an ultra-fast router. Several huge routers are located all over the planet. They look like enormous boxes without windows and with giant antennas on their roofs. Deep underground, thick cables providing ultra-fast data transmission are connected to these boxes. As soon as the signal from the cable enters the box, it broadcasts to space via radio waves. Thousands of satellites hover over the planet and intercept these waves to spread them throughout the world. So, anytime and anywhere, you have access to the internet that's working at the speed of light. Movies and video games are created several times faster. A lot of time is spent trying to transfer a terabyte of data with graphics from one computer to another, which is located in another country. Now, with Super Internet, developers get any amount of data in an instant. Flash drives and hard drives are no longer needed in the world. Everything is kept in cloud storage. From there, you can download any file to your computer thousands of times faster than if you downloaded it via USB. Companies that provide cloud storage services are becoming the richest in the world. You have access to the internet in the elevator and the subway, in the mines deep underground, and among the hot sands of the Sahara. The phones are released without internal memory and with an incredibly cool camera. You can record an infinite number of videos with 16K quality and not think about where to store them. You can do color correction, develop games, or edit your videos all on your phone. You don't need powerful processors for such operations. Everything works with the internet. You remotely connect to a powerful computer and work from anywhere. That's why the market for expensive computers has collapsed. Nobody wants to spend money on a cool graphics card because a new one will be released in a year. It's much easier to connect to the computer where it's already installed. Even in our time, such companies already exist in great numbers. You can play a new video game on top of settings on your old computer or phone if your internet connection is fast enough. Super Internet creates a perfect climate for the rapid development of modern technologies. Virtual reality lenses, for example. On an airplane, in a submarine, in the desert, you can watch the highest quality movies in 360 or play games with augmented reality. Special effects and graphics in such games become indistinguishable from reality. Artificial intelligence can process data from all over the world simultaneously, in seconds. Thanks to this, people make discoveries in the field of medicine and genetic engineering. Scientists are developing a machine that can upload the human mind on the internet and download it back. Each user's cloud storage accumulates so much digital garbage that people hire special companies to clean up terabytes of useless data. A huge amount of energy is consumed. It provokes an increase in the price of electricity. To save money, people build small wind farms in their backyards to generate electricity. Many people make tunnels to get to underground rivers. Using special equipment and a powerful water flow, you can create a home hydroelectric power plant. The roofs of most houses are covered with solar panels. The internet is becoming as familiar to the world as the air. There's no longer a place where you can't connect to the web. Some vloggers put a phone in a box made of refractory metals and threw it into the mouth of a raging volcano. Even then, the connection wasn't broken until the phone melted. In a few years, the data on the internet as a whole increases thousands of times. Billions of petabytes must be stored somewhere. Developers around the world build data centers to support cloud storage. They appear underwater, underground, in the mountains, and even in forests. Scientists understand there won't be enough space for such data storage in the future. In addition, all centers emit strong radiation, which is bad for humans and the Earth's atmosphere. Therefore, the world's IT companies unite to create a giant data storage server in space. They build such a station in the orbit of our planet. Developers install special equipment there to ensure the operation of cloud storage. Every year, the station grows in size. It receives energy from solar panels. After a few decades, the data center becomes a cube half the size of Earth. You can look out the window and see its outline in the blue sky, better than the moon. At night, millions of light bulbs glow on it. An enormous area on the moon is covered with solar batteries to provide the cube with additional energy. Now it looks like a disco ball. Humans colonize Mars and take the super internet there. Now you can make a high-quality video call to a friend who is on the red planet.
You get a notification on your phone saying that the internet will cease to exist in 7 days. Suddenly, you see a breaking news notification pop up, and the news presenter repeats what you've just read in the message. The channel broadcasts live footage of people panicking in the streets and losing their minds. You look out of the window of your apartment and see people running around carrying their phones and laptops. You go down and try to avoid the chaos by standing in an alleyway. Behind you, someone is mindlessly walking around muttering, "No more internet," over and over. You get a call from an unknown number telling you that you have to meet someone in an unknown location. You open the map on your phone and go there by car. From the outside, it seems to be an abandoned building. But from the inside, it's a high-tech facility with scientists in hazmat suits and lab coats. You've made it just in time for the briefing. A scientist with gray hair walks into the projector room and begins his presentation. He explains that these days there are more than 4 billion people using the internet, and there's no way to stop the World Wide Web from crashing. There are more than 74 zettabytes of data online now. A zettabyte is a trillion gigabytes, which is a lot of zeros. A Word document for a gigabyte of data has around 65,000 pages. So, for 74 trillion gigabytes, that's far too many zeros for me to say it in one breath. But it's around 4,810,000 times 1,021 pages. A sheet of A4 paper is 0.004 inches thick. For every gigabyte, we'll have 22 feet of stacked paper. Everyone zones out halfway through the lecture, but the lab coat people begin working immediately. You get assigned to help print out the internet. You take your place in the assembly line along with another 100 people. Day 1. It's your first day, and you're handling a printing press. The entire complex is filled with printers. People are constantly moving back and forth, bringing in paper from trucks. You start off by printing out everything related to health. Then you move on to other crucial documents. You don't have time to read anything. You also have to make sure that one document has around 8,000 words. You work from morning till evening, then the night shift takes over. You're only allowed a lunch break, a total of 20 minutes of stretching, and a visit to the bathroom. Everyone is working mechanically. The news program in the background shows countries all over the world doing their part of the work. At the opposite end of the facility, there are other teams. They download videos and audio files. After your shift is over, the night staff comes in. You clock out and head home. You realize that during this day, all the teams around the globe have covered no more than 1% of the information. Feeling demotivated, you look around. It's been prohibited to create new content unless it's extremely urgent. Each day can produce so much information that there won't be time to download it. Day 2. You're back at the assembly line. You didn't sleep well last night and can't concentrate. Everyone else around you didn't have a good night's sleep either. Right before lunch, some people pass out in their working places and get treated right away. There are many other people around on standby, ready to take over. You print out the rest of the most important documents. Then you move on to the second-tier data, like articles, blogs, and so on. Your shift has been extended by another 2 hours. You go home exhausted and totally unprepared for the next day. Day 3. You arrive at work to see a whole new complex built next door. They've apparently built it overnight. You've been assigned to the new building. Your task is to print more articles on paper. Your shift has been expanded by another hour. You and everyone else are too tired to do anything and can barely keep your eyes open. Just a few days are left, but only 15% of the internet has been printed. They're setting up yet another building with even more printers. It's close to nighttime, and you're still working. Finally, the night crew comes in and takes over, but they don't let you leave. You've been told to stay in a community hall. This way, you can save time by not commuting to work. You're escorted to the hall you're going to share with 100 other people. You try to sleep, but you can't. You toss and turn, but your eyes remain wide open. Day 4. A bell wakes you up. It's time for a quick breakfast. One by one, people from the night shift head to their community halls. 20 minutes later, you're back at the assembly line. With a mere 3 days left, they're pushing you even more. You look outside and see that even more buildings have sprung out of nowhere. Trucks filled with paper are driving back and forth, causing traffic jams. An underground bunker has been constructed in the Sahara Desert. It stretches for miles and is large enough to store all the documents and records. The trucks carry a few tons of paper each. Then, planes transport this precious cargo to the Sahara Desert. More and more people can't handle it and start to fall asleep while standing up. The production slows down, and an emergency bell rings so that more people can take over. But there isn't enough personnel. Many people are improvising and multitasking. The entire system is out of control. If the production stops for even half an hour, tons of information won't be printed out. You head to the community hall to have some rest. You see more recruits arrive. There are thousands of people working at the facility now. Day 5. You head back to the assembly line and continue printing. But no one is in the mood. The production is slower than it should be, even though there are only 2 days left. The news shows that people in the streets are still panicking. Many of them are filming themselves, but it's useless since it won't be archived. With the whole world working double time since day 1, around 70% of the internet has been printed. But people are running out of paper. Paper manufacturers can't keep up with the demand. By the final day, there may not be any paper left. Day 6. You feel tremendous pressure. Everyone is nervous. People make mistakes more and more often, which slows the process down. Since the printing machines have been working non-stop for 6 days, many of them have broken down and got replaced. Day 7. This is it. Only several hours are left. You didn't sleep at all last night. In fact, the whole world was awake, waiting for the countdown to begin. All the important stuff has been printed. All that's left is more trivial things. And still, even they shouldn't go to waste. Everyone, including the night crew, is working double time. Paper production companies have found a way to produce more paper just in time. 12 hours left. Your eyes are closing. Your body is weak. The only thing you crave is your bed. You're hungry, and your head feels heavy. The video and audio teams have officially finished downloading and backing up everything. Only a few countries still print out the information. 1 hour left. You're mechanically clicking print, adjusting the word count, and fixing the margins. You've been doing it for such a long time that now you can do it with your eyes closed. But you jolt up every now and then and try to focus on your work. The whole world tunes in for the end of the internet. Only 0.5% of data remains unprinted, but you're minutes away from the internet shutdown. 3, 2, 1... And the internet officially doesn't exist anymore. Instead of causing chaos all over the place, people just quietly stand in the streets. They seem to have accepted the situation. Phones are now only used for calling, texting, and doing some basic stuff. If anyone wants information, they go to libraries and bookstores. Within the first 7 days, the world's economy plummets. Companies have to find ways to work without the internet. The banking system has collapsed since everyone has withdrawn their money from their accounts. No more social media news and hashtags for possibly the most intense moment in history. You breathe out and go back home to the world's first day without the internet. Traffic. You're stuck on a bridge waiting for the line to move, but you've been in your car for more than 2 hours. You're gonna be late to pick up your friend from the airport. Suddenly, the bridge starts shaking. Everyone gets out of their cars and runs to the other end of the bridge. But there are so many people panicking that they start pushing and shoving each other. The bolts on the bridge begin to snap one by one, making the bridge shake even more. Almost everyone has already crossed to the other side. But the first half of the bridge falls down, causing all the abandoned cars to slide to the ocean. You start climbing on them, trying to get to safe ground. Almost there, you jump over some cars and make it to safety. You make it just in time, because the whole bridge has collapsed into the ocean. Everyone is confused. You start to feel the ground inflating. Someone screams, and everyone starts to disperse like tiny ants. You run into the city center and see some buildings start to shake. The sidewalks are cracking. The fire hydrants burst open. All the glass in every building shatters. Everyone is running away from the buildings. Many cars are crashing into each other, blocking many paths for people. You see people get evacuated, so you follow them into the countryside, which has no buildings around. There are thousands of people standing side by side, scared and confused. Someone stands on a podium and announces that the Earth is expanding by 1 inch per second. Everyone is advised to go with escorted safety cars into the city to pack up their belongings and head to a new shelter. They have to be quick, or else the entire city will collapse. You enter one of these safety cars, and they take you back home. You can see the ground getting bigger and bigger. You reach downtown, where all the skyscrapers are. They're all swaying and might collapse any second. Suddenly, they all topple over each other just like dominoes. You were lucky enough to grab some of your things, but the buildings have trapped you inside. A helicopter comes out of nowhere to rescue you and everyone else. From an eagle-eye view, you can see the whole city crashing down. Every road is unrecognizable. Bridges and tunnels have completely collapsed. The helicopter takes you to the shelter, where you'll be spending the rest of your life. A group of scientists explain to you that the Earth's surface will increase by 40 miles in a month and by 500 miles in a year. That's even further than a trip from New York to Toronto. You're shocked by what you hear as the planet continues to expand. You were supposed to pick up your friend from the airport, but all the roads are destroyed now. Suddenly, you get a call from him. He landed just as the ground started expanding, and now he's stuck at the airport. You sneak off from the base, find a bike in the middle of the road, and head there. It'll take you a couple of hours to get there, since the helicopter took you to the opposite end of town. You ride along the bumpy road that has changed completely. The flat, open road is now full of many hills and trenches. The farmlands are inside out, and most mills are destroyed. You finally reach a mountain pass that looks very unstable. You have no choice but to go through it. It used to be a public hiking trail, but now it looks like a landfill. You get there slowly, looking out for any signs of danger. Many trees have been uprooted and are leaning on each other. Suddenly, a huge tree tumbles down and blocks the road in front of you. You speed up and decide to use the tree as a ramp. You fly across the obstacle, making it to the other side. But as you land, you notice a massive landslide. You speed away on the bumpy road. The whole mountain starts to shake and finally collapses. You're riding through everything, dodging every tree, rock, and bush until you make it out. You turn around and see the whole mountain collapse behind you. There's no going back. You continue through the open road until you see a broken sign to the airport. It's not far away, and when you finally get there, you try calling your friend, The phone no longer works. The reception is awful, but suddenly you realize all the cell towers are probably destroyed by now. The sun begins to set. You almost give up, but you spot him in the distance. You pick your friend up and head back to safety. As you ride back, the airport runway starts to collapse. It's located right next to the ocean. So with the infrastructure collapsing, ocean water begins to find its way to land. You're at maximum speed, trying to get away with a tidal wave gaining on you. With the whole mountain collapsed, you can't go back the same way. Water begins to touch your legs. The bike can barely make it out, but you find a little passage and escape. You detour and take the longer route through the city to get back to the shelter. But the city looks even stranger than when you were there in the morning. Many rats and animals are roaming the streets. Lamp posts and telephone poles are blocking the roads. Glass windows you saw a couple of hours ago are now all over the floor. It's too dark to see ahead, so you and your friend make camp in what used to be a convenience store. You make sure there's no roof above, otherwise it might cave in while you're sleeping. Many dangerous animals are lurking outside. You finally fall into a deep sleep. The next day, you ride along and the ground level gets even higher. In 24 hours, the ground rose by around 1.5 miles. You see a bunch of people walking, trying to find shelter. You tell them about the rescue team and explain to them how to get there. After a couple of hours, you finally arrive, but the place is deserted. There are no more improvised tents and buildings. All the people disappeared. You try to investigate and find out what happened, but you've got no clues. As you continue walking, you start to feel heavier than usual. Since the Earth is getting bigger and bigger, gravity is getting stronger as well. You get tired more quickly than expected, and an uphill walk seems impossible. You get back on your bike and continue driving in search of answers. In the distance, you spot a dome structure in the middle of a field. You enter and notice that everyone evacuated here. You settle in. Inside the dome, there's a construction of a giant vehicle the size of 3 malls. It'll be the new mobile city. 1 year later, the Earth's surface grew by 500 miles. Some mountains grew larger, but some are embedded in the land. Forests and jungles lost around 90% of their trees. Oceans and seas created a new map formation since so much water was trapped underneath the land. All of this made oxygen levels drop. The gravitational force became even stronger, making it much more difficult to walk without catching a breath. Climbing hills is definitely not easy. Many tsunamis, volcanoes, and earthquakes destroyed lands and cities, and they're now happening more frequently than before. The heat from the Earth's core is getting stronger. The entire world economy collapsed as soon as the Earth started to get bigger. Digging for oil is now impossible, so you can't use any vehicle that's gas-powered. The vehicles of today have specialized wheels for rough terrain and are powered by the sun. Everyone lives in those giant domes with huge wheels to constantly change location whenever it gets risky. Congratulations! You're now one of the dome drivers, and you're heading to the East Coast. The place is packed with around 5,000 people living and working inside. Everyone has specific responsibilities so that the area there can be well maintained. But wait, traffic? Another mobile dome city is in front of you, and it's barely moving. As long as everyone's in the dome, they're safe. For now. You're sitting in a car in a space shopping mall parking lot. You've just bought a gift for your sister's birthday and should have time to get it to the celebration. Today, there are a lot of people in the mall, so it's difficult to leave the parking lot. Finally, you're approaching the gate. You press the button next to the steering wheel and activate the gravity cushion. It allows the car to hover above the ground at several inches. The car wheels are sliding inside the body, and a huge turbine is coming out of the trunk. The front glass becomes a touch panel with many buttons and screens. The gate opens, the turbine releases a flame, and your car flies out of the parking lot, right into outer space. Thousands of flying cars are rushing past you on an invisible space highway. You're moving away from the mall, which looks like a huge space station surrounded by holograms of advertising brands. Before Earth, you need to get to Mars. There, you want to repair the car's engine. The navigator plans a route to the red planet, and you go on your way. You're far from Earth's orbit, so you can get to Mars in several hours. You activate the autopilot and decide to take a little nap. It's 2048. The world's population has exceeded 20 billion people. There's too little space on Earth. Humanity is not ready to colonize other planets yet. So scientists and engineers from all countries start building huge space stations. This unloads the planet by more than 50%. The stations look like huge rings. They imitate the Earth's atmosphere, have artificial gravity and vegetation. People move to stations, but often return to Earth. Rockets fly between the planet and orbit. But such transport is expensive and inconvenient. Automakers make efforts at creating super reactive flying cars. Some years later, people slowly colonize the Moon and Mars. Now, getting to the red planet is as easy as getting to the neighboring city. Cars fly along certain routes that are similar to airways for planes. Engineers create special digital highways that can only be seen through the windshield. Of course, you can fly through space as you like, in any direction. But if you fly to a mall or the moon, you have to stick to the established digital route. You wake up and approach Mars. People almost don't live here because of the unfavorable atmosphere and difficult weather conditions. But Mars has the biggest service center for cars and the coolest amusement theme park in the solar system. To get there, people have to stand in a space traffic jam for hours. The dashboard shows you have some problems with the turbine. You put on a spacesuit, take a laser screwdriver, and get out of the car. You're in zero gravity, flying up to the turbine and fixing the problem with the screwdriver. There are thousands of cars around you. People are yawning inside, listening to music, and watching movies. You get into the vehicle and slowly move on. The engine or turbine often fails in the middle of a space highway. When this happens, your car activates its emergency mode. The dashboard automatically sends a signal to the nearest repair team. You're just floating in space and waiting until the mechanics arrive. They tow the car to the nearest auto service. You have enough oxygen inside for a couple of days, and if you run out of it, you can ask for help on the internet. Good people flying by will stop and share their oxygen supplies with you. Finally, you get to the car service station. Mechanics install a new super jet engine for your car and repair the turbine. There's not much time left, and you promised your sister you wouldn't be late. You get into the car and leave the Martian orbit at full speed. The new engine runs silently and doesn't shake the car. You increase the speed and fly along an almost empty digital highway. On your way, you meet a lot of small satellites showing holographic ads. Fortunately, you have an ad blocker. You turn it on, and the space banners become invisible through your windshield. Finally, you see a small blue dot. This is Earth. At this moment, you remember that you need to feed your dog. You leave the route and fly to the moon. There you have a small cottage with a house, which you bought for a small price last year. People can't change the atmosphere of entire planets yet, but you can install a small dome and fill it with oxygen. Inside your dome, you've built a house, a swimming pool, and even a small vegetable garden. In the past, people went to the countryside to take a break from the city bustle. Now, everyone just buys houses on the moon. You fly through the dome, land on the white surface, and put food into a dog bowl. They're renovating your apartment on the space ring, so you live on the moon with your dog for a while. You can see other cars flying up into the neighboring domes. Some vehicles are elite supercars with a large gravity cushion and ultra-reactive engines. They can fly 10 times faster than the speed of sound and have artificial intelligence that can talk to the driver. There are also old, rusty space cars. Sometimes people attach a jet engine to an ordinary car and cover the body with a mix of copper, iron, and silver to travel over long distances in a cold vacuum. You can also see a lot of taxis in outer space. Sometimes, getting to the moon is cheaper than getting to the other end of some city on Earth. The reason is traffic jams on the Earth's roads. Also, there are a lot of flying buses in space. Every day, several flights depart on the Earth to Moon to Mars route. People are constantly building something on Mars. The huge car service and the amusement park are done. Now they're creating a scientific center there to study interstellar jumps. Of course, engineers need building materials for such construction projects. Several times a week, long trains fly from Earth to Mars along a separate space route. Initially, trains carried people, but they became unprofitable. It's much cheaper and faster to get to Mars by your own car or bus. Finally, you're leaving the moon and approaching the Earth. The dashboard signals you're out of fuel, so you decide to stop at a gas station. These stations are everywhere. They're fully automated, controlled by artificial intelligence. You're flying up to one of them. The fuel pump is automatically connected to your gas tank. The super-reactive engine consumes improved rocket fuel instead of gas. You transfer money to the station through the touch panel and fly away. Hundreds of digital space highways lead to Earth, and every road is filled with cars. Traffic jams again. There are security checkpoints in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Customs services check documents and car trunks. While standing in traffic, you're watching garbage trucks. A lot of space debris is floating around. Slow-flying trucks controlled by artificial intelligence collect garbage in huge containers. Then, they fly away from Earth's orbit and unhook the containers. These garbage cans have little turbines that let containers fly far beyond our solar system. Then, they heat up and burn all the garbage from the inside. Finally, you pass all the checkpoints and fly into the middle layers of the atmosphere. Our planet looks like a huge cyberpunk world, but only lighter and more beautiful. Huge cars disperse the clouds to improve visibility. Firefighter flying ships are coming to one of the stations where a fire started. You encounter hundreds of gas stations, air hotels, cinemas, and shopping malls in the sky before you reach the ground. You're approaching a parking building. This is an 80-story skyscraper filled with cars. People leave their vehicles and use elevators to go down. Fortunately, there's a place near your sister's house where you can park your car. You land, put your hand on the passenger seat to take the gift, and oh no! It looks like you left it on the moon.
You're sitting in the car, waiting for the traffic light to turn green. The temperature's so high today it seems the city is about to melt. You look at the traffic light and notice it's deforming. Drops are dripping down from it. You don't believe this is really happening, so you're rubbing your eyes with your palms and you find your silver ring is slowly flowing down your finger. You scream in fear because you expect the molten metal to scorch your skin, but nothing happens. The traffic light completely drains down. You want to press the gas pedal, but there's only some kind of liquid under your feet, and it falls off. You run out of the car and watch it slowly melt. The wheels, the blue body, the internal details, the motor, everything turns into liquid. Only the tires, plastic things, seats, car carpets, and glass remain intact. You hear screams behind you, and you see all the other cars around are melting. You want to record it on video, but your phone has become liquid too. You take out the remaining glass screen in the plastic case. All the metals around are melting. Street lamps and bus stops turn into a homogeneous mass. Suddenly, it gets completely silent. Car horns, the noise from the highway, sirens, exhaust fumes, and engine roars. All of it has disappeared. Rivers of liquid metal are flowing down the streets, and you're in the center of this. The metal stream carries away the tires and other car details. It knocks people down. Then, a low, loud noise sounds through the city. People are running out of malls, libraries, cafes, homes, business centers. Puddles form around all houses. Every building is equipped with metal structures, rebars, and fittings. Now it's all melting and seeping through the concrete. Metals are melting slowly, so people have time to evacuate from the city. All the buildings are collapsing and raising dust in the air. Sewerage hatchways are flowing downwards. The city's sewer system is melting. Water mixed with liquid metal comes out on the streets. People are swimming in this mass. They're using hundreds of thousands of rubber tires as life buoys. Someone's even riding a surfboard. Liquid coins are flowing out of your wallet. Hundreds of ATMs around the city are melting. Millions of paper banknotes are drowning in metal flows. All the gold reserves become liquid and paint the city with an orange color. Thousands of letters float on melting mailboxes. All data centers, computers, and servers become a part of the huge metal stream. Instantly, all the digital information in the world disappears. Televisions, game consoles, amusement theme parks are melting. Radio receivers, telephones, electrical wires, cables, and internet connections disappear. Millions of tons of metal fill in the street, then pour into rivers and oceans. The water is getting a dark silver shade. In one day, people lose all modern technologies and return to the Stone Age. Metal rivers flood cities. People run to the countryside. Bicycles, motorcycles, and other forms of transportation are gone. City residents are deprived of electricity and all things that are powered by electricity. It's not safe to be in a natural area either. Metals are hidden in the mountains and underground. Now they turn into liquid and cause deformation inside the soil and stone. Some mountains are ruined, like a melting hill of ice cream. Earthquakes shake the ground all over the world. Seismic activity wakes up volcanoes. They splash out a huge amount of lava and cover the sky with ash. Volcanic magma contains a lot of molten metals, but now they don't solidify. Pools of cold lava are formed around volcanoes. People learn to live anew in such conditions. They build houses out of plastic and wood, using ropes and glue to connect the materials. You can now easily start a fire with wood and stone. People burn glass to make it stronger. They make axes and other tools from high-strength glass and stone. But such items quickly deteriorate and break. You learn how to build dugouts. You drip the soil and use wooden boards to support the ceilings and walls. Almost the entire population of the planet lives underground, since it helps keep warm during winter. But it's not possible to live like this for a long time because of frequent earthquakes. Wooden chariots appear on the roads again. Problems with the harvest begin. Metals seep into the soil, and this disrupts the growth of the crops. Many people live near the ocean. During earthquakes, they get on wooden rafts or inflatable boats and sail away from the shore. To travel long distances, people fly in balloons. You can even get to a neighboring city if the wind doesn't take you away. It's impossible to send a letter to another country since there's no more railways. People make long walking journeys and live like nomads. You use pigeon mail to communicate with friends living in the neighboring city. It's difficult to get food and live in winter without electricity. But there is hope. Scientists can't find out the reason for the change of metals without technical equipment, but they put forward the theory that metals have changed at the molecular level. The molecules moved away from each other, and this caused melting. To bring everything back, you need to connect the metal molecules closer to each other, and people need an electric current for this. Fortunately, there's enough of it in the sky. Every day, lightning flashes somewhere. You just need to catch it. Scientists create plastic containers and fill them with liquid metal. All containers are connected by a rubber wire with molten copper inside. Copper is one of the best conductive metals. On a huge field, people place hundreds of such containers. Clouds are gathering. A strong storm begins. The lightning strikes the ground several times and finally hits the container. It comes through a copper wire and distributes the charge to all other tanks. A chain reaction begins. When the storm ends, people discover containers with solid metal. It worked! Now we have a couple of tons of ordinary metals. Scientists send mail pigeons to spread the news. Soon, people around the world are trying to catch the lightning. The resulting metals are enough to build minimal equipment for a power plant. Scientists use electricity from power plants to turn metals into powerful magnets. Liquid iron, copper, and aluminum seep deep into the ground and the ocean. To get them out of there, people build metal mining stations. First, they make a deep hole in the ground, then lower a huge magnet there. Liquid metals pass through the soil and stick to the magnet. People use the extracted materials to build new magnetic stations. They install them all over the world. Huge magnets appear in the seas, rivers, and oceans. People pump all the liquid metal out of the water and make it solid with an electric charge. Then, people create metal tools, axes, saws, machine tools, anvils, spokes, and wheels. Then, they make metal fittings and frames for houses. Life is slowly improving. People make chains, bicycles, and rebuild factories. They restore railways and launch the first trains. A new industrial era has come again. Iron, nickel, and aluminum are more expensive than gold because of a huge demand for them. Also, separating liquid copper from liquid silver and other metal separating operations is a difficult task. This increases the price too. When solid metals become abundant, their price begins to fall. Previously, to get iron, people dug deep quarries in mines where they extracted iron ore. Now, metals are liquid, and they attract themselves thanks to magnetic forces. You can stick a long magnet in the ground in your backyard, and the next day, it will be covered with iron. Easy metal mining accelerates technological growth. Now you don't need furnaces to melt steel or silver. You immediately get them in liquid form. You can pour metals into a jar and store them forever in liquid form. And an electric charge can make them solid. The first planes and ships appear. The international export and import of goods are fully restored. But the fastest thing people restored is power lines in the internet. In 1 century, humanity has managed to completely rebuild modern technologies.
They're watching you! You escape from a crash site and try to blend in the jungle and successfully hide behind some colorful plants and rocks. Oh, okay, they're gone. You keep heading forward, knowing that there are eyes everywhere. You can't remember how you got here. You look behind the trees and see a human figure staring at you. You can't see their face, but as soon as you notice them, the human hides. You make it to a large waterfall and have to swim for the rest of the trip down the river. You gear up and dip in the cold water. Fish of all sizes are swimming right next to you. Some bizarre-looking creatures are nearby. A high-tech boat patrols above you, but doesn't notice that you're under it. You continue swimming, catching your breath at times. You're wearing special goggles that show heat signals for anything close by. And more importantly, they show your status bar for vitality and other important things. You finally get out of the river, dry yourself off, and head deeper into the jungle. The map on your indicator shows that you're all alone. You look up and see no patrol drones in the sky. As you keep walking, your map starts blinking. It shows that you're standing on top of a village, but there's no one in sight. You switch on your temperature reading, and it shows that the village is underground. Some more drones fly by, but they don't see you. You try to find a secret entrance, but nothing. You keep searching and come across an interesting rock that looks like it doesn't belong there. You press it, and an entrance opens up. You're taken underground through a sophisticated tunnel network and arrive at the village square. As soon as you get there, you find some green creatures staring at you. At first, they think you're a threat, but as soon as you explain who you are, they let you meet their leader. You're being escorted on a giant turtle with 6 legs and taken to the leader and council. They debate whether or not you're an enemy trying to steal their secrets, even though you explain that you don't even know how you got here. They keep you in a room until a decision is made. Moments later, they bring you back and release you. They're peaceful creatures and don't want any conflict. Suddenly, the ground collapses, and dozens of drones and people suited up in metal armor descend and start wreaking havoc. All the people start running away and hiding, but the drones fly around and spot them. The leader finds you and catches you. Everything turns black. You wake up in a room dressed in normal civilian clothes. You get out of bed and look out the window and find yourself back home in the city. Cars are driving by trying to get through traffic. Pedestrians walk around going to work. You drink a glass of water, but something doesn't feel right about all this. You go out to the city and make your way around town, trying to figure out how you got back. You notice many of the street cameras are watching you. Some people stare at you unusually as they walk past you. You go to the coffee shop right around the corner, but notice that the details around you are off. You wait in line trying to see what to order, but some of the people start asking you weird questions, almost like they want to know some information. It's finally your turn, and you make your order. You look at the counter, but it seems kind of transparent. You wave your hand around it, and it goes through it. The barista notices it and turns into a robot. She flies over you and tries to grab you, but you run out to the street. You realize that this world isn't real and that everyone is watching you. The people are just projections, so you literally run through them. Some other people convert into machines and zip past all the buildings. As you run, you notice more details of the surroundings flickering and turning transparent. You try to hide in a building, but even the building starts glitching. The robots find you and catch you. The entire environment shatters like glass breaking, and you wake up in a room strapped to a chair with an advanced VR headset. It automatically pops out, and the people in armor suits start asking you many questions on how you escaped, but you don't tell them. They leave the room as they have other things to do. Good thing you know the facility inside out, so you manage to unstrap yourself from your binds and break into the security system to let yourself out. You grab your gear and escape. They continue to monitor your every move, but they think you're still inside. You loop the video of yourself sitting and set it on their preview screen. You escape from the facility and head into the frozen land to try and find some answers. As you keep walking, you get quick frames of yourself sitting at home. It may be the same facility you were trained in, but you can't see the jungle you were at outside. You walk through the icy paths in a stormy blizzard and find shelter. Out of nowhere, a man dressed in thick overalls comes in defense mode. You explain to him that you escaped and need a place to rest. He agrees and makes some food for you. Even though you feel warm and have a full belly, something still feels off. It was too easy. Good thing you didn't tell him everything. But every time you take a sip of your soup, he asks questions about your escape. As soon as you realize the routine he's pulling, your surroundings begin to flicker. They tricked you into thinking you escaped so you could spill the beans, and it almost worked. You've been inside the room the whole time. You try to find a way out, but you can't tell where you are. Judging by the humidity and ambient sound, you must be in the same jungle. You try to find a way out, but nothing works. You concentrate and try to see if you're in real space or not. Everything around you feels real, the walls and the floors and the chair you were sitting on, but you can't trust reality. You pick the lock and escape once more. You run out of the facility and are back in the jungle. The sky is filled with patrol drones and aircraft. It's too late to go and hide. You need to leave the planet. You get to the hangar, find an unoccupied ship, and fly out. But they notice your ship flying out without permission on their radar. They start chasing you while you zigzag across the space debris. You don't even know where to go, but you need to get as far away as possible. You keep dodging all the obstacles in your path. 2 ships are on your tail. They catch up with you and overtake you. You dip down and fly towards a large asteroid. The 2 ships also dip down and keep chasing you. You're head-to-head with an asteroid. The 2 ships disengage to avoid a collision. At the last minute, you twist and turn, avoiding the asteroid by a fraction of a second. You keep flying away. After a while, you look around and see no one. You're out of their scope. You try to open the navigation system, but it's gone offline. You're in the middle of space with nowhere to go. You keep moving until you spot a planet that looks like Earth. You see a moon around it and assume that it is Earth. You adjust the settings and begin descending. You breach the atmosphere, but then the engines shut down. You strap yourself tight and wait for impact. You see a jungle with colorful leaves below you. Right before impact, you eject your seat and parachute down near the crash site. After a while, you notice some drones in the sky. This is too familiar. You don't know if you're still in virtual reality or not, but you see they're watching you. You continue walking around for a while and spot something moving in the distance. You see yourself running in the jungle, about to take a dip in the river. They notice you, and you immediately duck down to hide. There's no way of knowing if you're in virtual reality or not. Day 1. You jolt awake, totally disoriented. What's going on? Your house is shaking and trembling. It must be an earthquake. You grab your pillow and your cat. He's just as confused as you are and doesn't even put up a fight. What else? Your documents? Laptop? Huh? It seems your house is moving. You see the trees growing in your garden pass by the window. You're rooted to the spot, your cat clutched to your chest. The building around you, your 30-year-old home, is cracking, screeching, and making all kinds of unsettling noises. Loud crashing sounds coming from your kitchen hint at the possibility of your newest tea set getting shattered at the moment. The furniture is moving around your bedroom. You have to grab onto the wall. Oh, look at that. You're already in your neighbor's garden, and your house has apparently decided to take a break. It stopped. With your legs shaking, you carefully get out of the building. The cat is suspiciously quiet in your arms. Mr. Brown is already waiting for you under an apple tree. He's pale, and his eye is twitching. After speaking for a while, you two come to a conclusion that it might have been a landslide. It's still unclear how to return your house to where it used to stand, but you both agree it's a problem for another day. Day 2. In the morning, everything seems okay. Well, your house is still in your neighbor's garden, and your cat refuses to leave his favorite shoebox, but nothing more dramatic has happened overnight. The weekend is over, and you get into your car. Time to go to your office. While driving, you keep doing double takes. It feels as if many buildings in your town have swapped their places. Weird. At work, you immediately notice some commotion. It turns out that not only your house was influenced by that terrible landslide. Other than that, the day is quiet. If you ignore the fact that your office building seems to jump once or twice and do something that you describe as stretching its muscles. When you're driving home, not only your left, but also your right eyebrow is twitching. Not far from your house, you get stuck in a huge traffic jam. Anxious people leave their cars, trying to figure out what's going on. Oh, it's a house. A 2-story lovely cottage is standing in the middle of the road. Another landslide? It becomes harder to make yourself believe in this story. There's no trail of ruined grass, bushes, or soil that a landslide would have left behind. Plus, your town is located on a perfectly flat plain. You take another road and soon park near your house. The only problem? Your house is missing! It's neither in its usual place nor in your neighbor's garden. You knock on Mr. Brown's door. "Oh, your house. It's gone away," he says, and giggles. You can only stare at the trembling man. Mr. Brown continues, "At around 10 a.m., your house started shaking. Then it slowly lifted itself over the ground. It was very loud. I saw something resembling 4 sturdy legs. Then your house stretched upward, wiggled a bit, and set off to the north. Oh, here's your cat." And Mr. Brown hands you your poor pet, scared but unscathed. You take the animal, get back into your car, and drive to your sister's house. Her family is in front of the TV, watching the latest news. Your house isn't the only one that decided to make a run for it. Hundreds of buildings all over the country and the whole world have started to move. You listen to scientists, professors, and experts. They claim it's a new reality that people will just have to accept. For some inexplicable reason, all kinds of buildings can migrate now. No one in the entire world can explain this outstanding phenomenon. Day 3. You wake up to the news that thousands of cities and towns have disappeared overnight. In the morning, people who fell asleep in big cities found themselves in forests, at the seaside, or near lakes. One apartment building got stuck in a swamp. Another decided to have a rest too close to a cliff edge. In both cases, the authorities had to evacuate people and send huge cranes to save the buildings. Day 10. You accidentally come across your house. It's moved to another part of the city, to a much nicer district than the one you used to live in. It takes you little time to realize that you also like this area much more. You go to grab your stuff from your sister's house. You speed up on your way back, thinking your house might have disappeared again. But no, when you're back, it's still there, waiting for you. You could swear the entire building looks guilty. Your cat is trying to twist out of your arms. The animal doesn't trust this huge moving box anymore. Day 20. You've got used to waking up in a new place every morning. You try to perceive the situation as an exciting adventure. One day, you woke up on a steep slope of a large hill. At first, you were pleasantly surprised. Your house is a romantic at heart. The sunrise view from your bedroom window was stunning. But 2 hours later, it became obvious your house was stuck. You had no idea how it managed to climb so high in the darkness, but it was painfully obvious it couldn't get back to solid ground. Luckily, there are now tons of special services that can help you in this situation. That time, it took the efforts of 2 cranes and 1 cargo helicopter to save your house. Anyway, that's how Earth has changed in just 1 month. Most people have moved out of their apartments and houses. Tents are gaining immense popularity. These days, tent producers are quickly becoming some of the most successful and richest people on the planet. They've started developing state-of-the-art products with temperature control, built-in Wi-Fi, different kinds of lighting, you name it. The newest tents can easily withstand sub-zero temperatures and protect their inhabitants from the summer heat. Another advantage of living in a tent? It won't go away, taking along you and your stuff. Cities have mostly disappeared. It's impossible to control them, not with buildings that can start wandering around or set off on a journey at literally any moment. While moving, buildings ruin roads and highways. They knock down street and traffic lights and road signs. Now you can never find a grocery store nearby, and your favorite diner always turns up in a different district. Those people who don't want to live in tents have to migrate along with cities and buildings every day. And it's extremely tiring. You never know if you find your home after leaving for an hour to take your dog for a walk. Schedules, appointments, and timetables just don't exist anymore. There's no point in setting up a time if you don't know how much it'll take you to get to your destination. You're always late for work in the morning because you never know where your office is. First, you need to locate it with the help of a special newly developed app. But while you're driving there, your office building can easily change its location. And then, the chase begins. Well, on the bright side, people have become way fitter. You often leave your house to run some errands, but in the end, all you do is run after your house, the wanderer. Google Maps are useless now. With no buildings staying where they're supposed to be, there's no use for this app. If you need to visit someone or find some place you've never been to before, you can hardly find the address. There are no more streets and no more house numbers. But the worst thing is earthquakes. Imagine a 100-story skyscraper moving around. No wonder the ground under its feet is shaking like crazy. This leads to smaller human-made constructions like bridges, dams, or power lines collapsing. In some places, it results in fires and floods. The moving buildings also produce a lot of deafening noise. Most people find it impossible to sleep at night. They have to catch some Z's during the day because, for some bizarre reason, buildings prefer moving at night. Day 45. Today, you've managed to get to your office. You flop down into your chair and look around. Your colleagues look bad. All of them have large, dark circles under their eyes. Even the slightest noise makes them jump. They're nervous and tired. You see your own reflection in your computer monitor. You look no better. If scientists don't find the solution soon, civilization will collapse.
It was a quiet and clear night in the countryside as a lady slept peacefully with her dog calmly at the end of her bed, when suddenly a loud crash woke her. Something fell through the ceiling. The dog began barking at the sudden loud noise of the unknown intruder. As the lady gathered her senses and wiped her face, she turned on the light. She looked around her room, trying to find the cause of the noise. She was shocked and confused to see a great hole in the ceiling. And directly below, right next to where her head was just lying, she saw a rock the size of her fist. Shaken, she immediately called the responsible person as she thought, but he advised that the rock was likely from a nearby construction site. This added further confusion as she was in the middle of nowhere. Nothing could have caused this to her knowledge. The next day, the responsible people visited to investigate. Further, the more detailed analysis showed that it wasn't just any rock, but a meteorite. Did you know that the chances of getting under a meteorite are about 1 in 250,000? It seems like relatively good odds. However, just for comparison, the odds of meeting a shark is 1 in 3.5 million. Do you often fly by plane? Perhaps you fancy your chances with the weather. Being caught in a tornado is a possibility of 1 in 13 million. And if you are a bit of a risk taker, the chances of you winning the big lottery is 1 in 292 million. So, given the odds, it would appear that a meteor fall would be a pretty common occurrence. Yet there are very few known instances of anyone getting by one. The Canadian woman who received the unexpected guest was lucky that it was a small stone. In 2013, an asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere to the territory of the city of Russia with a population of 1 million people. Little did a cab driver realize, as he drove his cab, that an asteroid entering Earth's atmosphere was the most prominent object from space to enter Earth's atmosphere in over 100 years, measuring 66 feet wide. Everybody knows asteroids are gigantic objects revolving around our sun that aren't planets or moons. They're made from rocks and dust and come in all kinds of weird shapes. The largest is at about 329 miles in diameter. Asteroids mostly live within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. You can imagine what a journey it made to the Earth on that day. Given that the asteroid belt is so extensive and populated with all sorts of debris, collisions between objects are very likely. As the objects collide with one another, their trajectory changes, leading them outside of the asteroid belt. And on that day, it launched them in the direction of our planet. The city taxi driver dropped off his fare as the asteroid entered the atmosphere. The man saw many people on the street pointing to the sky. He got out of his cab and looked in the same direction. He saw a long tail of smoke across the sky with a bright object at the head of it, hurtling towards Earth at an unimaginable speed. As the atmospheric pressure slowed and heated the asteroid, causing it to glow brighter, it sped towards Earth. The man, unable to turn away, stood mesmerized. He watched on as the asteroid became brighter and brighter until it became brighter than the sun for a moment. The man turned his head away and covered with his arms to block the flash, as it was too blinding to look directly towards it. But as the asteroid reached its peak luminosity, it broke apart into several pieces that then continued falling towards the ground. Startled, the man looked around. The people on the street were also standing silent and unsure of what had just transpired. Suddenly, they heard multiple loud bangs in the near distance. The earth shook as the falling pieces of the asteroid hit the earth. Windows within buildings surrounding the street shattered. Cars parked had their alarms activated by the vibrations. Some people ran, but others in the street stood frozen, looking around at one another, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. The ground affected was extensive, covering up to 60 miles wide. Windows were shattered throughout the town. As the dust settled and repairs were made, scientists analyzed the pieces of the asteroid to identify where it had come from. They found that a collision within the asteroid belt had indeed caused it, and this 66-foot intruder was only a tiny piece of an even more giant asteroid. Given the crowded location when the asteroid fell, it was a miracle that no one was physically hit. There has only been one case where a meteorite had made physical contact with a person. It happened in 1954 in the USA. A lady was relaxing on her sofa, enjoying a short nap, when suddenly she was woken by a jolt in the side of her belly. The asteroid had been noticed by many in the same area. Reports were recorded that it had been the size of a basketball as it fell towards Earth. But after it burned up in the atmosphere and crashed through the woman's house, it had shrunk significantly by the time it made contact with her. After it was confirmed it was an intruder from space, the American lady then became the first and only recorded person on Earth hit by a meteorite. Within the asteroid belt, the asteroids also share their home with comets. Comets share the same ranges and size as the asteroids, but they're mainly made of ice. They can also have bits of rock and dust within their body. Comets have a long tail following behind them, which is made from their interaction with the Sun. Comets aren't only located within the asteroid belt. They're well known to have all kinds of paths, not only restricted to just within our solar system. Some sightings of these periodic comets are documented in human history, appearing on infrequent occasions as they make their long journey throughout the solar system. Most notably is Halley's Comet, which can be visible on Earth on average once every 76 years. The last one was about 36 years ago. The first known record by humans of Halley's Comet was as far as 240 BCE. Halley's Comet is next expected to say hello in about 40 years from now, so make sure you get your telescopes ready. Asteroids and comets are big and scary for sure, and we all know that the dinosaurs were not able to detect the asteroid that impacted the Earth, which ended their reign on this planet. But luckily for us humans, we have scientists carefully observing our solar system. Asteroids and comets are so large that they can be easily detected, so there's nothing to be concerned about soon. Now that we have the concerning space rocks out of the way, let's move on to their smaller relatives, the smallest being meteors, made from rock and dust that are so small that they burn up within our atmosphere, having no impact other than a light show. Meteor showers provide the most exciting display for all your novice astronomers out there. Meteor showers are very common, occurring around 30 times per year. They're easily predicted when to occur. You'll just need to ensure you're outside of the city on a clear night and be sure to bring a blanket along with you. But why do we get meteor showers, and why are they so easily predicted? Well, it all relates to how the comet gets its tail. When the heat from the sun interacts with the comet and separates gases and pieces of the comet, the Earth then orbits into the path of that same debris, which creates the magnificent display of the meteor shower. Being that meteors are too small to reach the ground of the Earth and burn up in our atmosphere, what if they could reach Earth? Well, they would then be called meteorites, made up of the same ingredients as meteors, but ultimately, we would only find solid rock if we happened to come across them. What's interesting about meteorites is that they are pieces of an ancient puzzle that have been flying around space for millions to billions of years. They could even been flying aimlessly in space longer than our sun has been burning brightly in our sky. Our solar system will continue to provide more surprises for us to learn from, just like the asteroid that arrived in Russia in 2013, which scientists only overlooked due to another asteroid that was being monitored closely on the very same day. But as we continue to have these experiences, we will continue to learn from them. And hopefully, when the next big one flies by, we'll be ready.
Oh no! Your cat knocked down your mug. Coffee is all over your expensive rug. But let's freeze time for a couple moments and see exactly how long it will take for coffee to spill on the floor. In regular time, it should take about a second for the initial knockdown of the mug and for gravity to do its job. Your cat is giving those menacing eyes while doing it. Yikes! 24 or 25 frames per second means that a video you see on the screen looks exactly like people moving in real life. When the first ever movies were made, cameras didn't have the technology to support 25 frames per second. That's why the movements were sped up and exaggerated. Fast forward to the present day, and we have technology that can capture the tiniest details. With the new cameras, we can watch a video with 90,000 frames per second. If you play it back at 25 FPS, every second will last an hour. Some things might seem pretty boring, but sometimes 1 second can fit in a lot of exciting events. So, if your cat knocks down your mug and it's free-falling on your rug, you'll see every single drop spilling out and about to hit the ground. In a world where each second in real time lasts an hour, everyday little things practically freeze in time. You get an hour to do whatever you want when 1 second lasts an hour. You place the mug back on the table and move your cat to another room. Of course, you pick up all the suspended liquid in the air and put it back in the mug. You notice a hummingbird outside fluttering around some flowers and having its lunch. A hummingbird can flap its wings between 10 to 80 times per second while hovering. You stand right next to it and see the details of its wings and every flapping move it makes. A bee is collecting some pollen from a flower. You head over there and notice its wings are also humming in high definition. A fly buzzes around you, but you just walk past it. You see your neighbor casually walking his dog on a leash. The dog is about to chase a stray cat, so you can see its eyes bulging out and the cat running away. In your time, you already spent around 15 minutes, which barely amounts to a second in real life. Your body is still acting on its own time, and you're starting to feel hungry. You grab a small snack from your kitchen, keeping an eye on that hummingbird flapping its wings outside. You still have around 45 minutes in your new time. You decide to use them wisely and do some chores in the house to save yourself some actual real time. You open the faucet to do the dishes, but there's no water coming out of it. You remember it takes time for it to start running. You notice the first drop about to fall down, but it's happening way too slowly in your new time. So you decide to move on to other things, like dusting off some of the shelves. You move your duster and broom across the shelf. Dust slowly lifts in the air and stays hanging there. You can study it in every detail while it's floating like smoke. You stand back and try to catch the dust balls in the air and throw them. You realize trying to dust things off makes no sense at this point. You still have 35 minutes left and you don't know what to do. You want to check your phone, but the LED screen takes forever to light up. It takes a total of a little more than 8 minutes for light to travel from the sun to Earth. This means that if you find yourself in this slow-motion world at sunrise, it will take 20 days for the sun to reach you. That's a lot of waking hours. When you switch on the lights in your room, the light travels so fast, there's not enough time to process it, let alone see it happening. This number changed its value over the centuries, but the scientific community settled the debate for this. If you were living in such conditions, it might be the only way to measure the speed of light correctly. The number that was given is just an estimate based on the feasible physics we have. The first things to know when measuring the speed of light are the distance between 2 points and the time it takes for an object to travel between point A and point B. With distance divided by time, you'll have the speed of light. A good way of measuring the speed of light is by using mirrors and light beams. You might get a controlled environment for the experiment with equal distance and equal speed. But the main flaw is that we'll get the light beam's round trip from point A to point B rather than just the light beam's one-way trip from A to B. The reason why this is important is that the speed of light bouncing back from point B to point A may not be equal to that from initial point A to point B. Yeah, I know it's confusing, but let me break it down to make it simpler. You're sitting on a train waiting to go home after a long day at work. The train arrives perfectly on time. As it starts moving, you fall asleep in your seat. A moment before that, you check the clock and see it's exactly 9 p.m. After a while, you wake up in the exact same spot you were the moment you fell asleep. But this time, it's 11 p.m. You slept through the whole ride and have to wait till you get home. We assume that it takes the train 1 hour from the train station to your home and another hour from your home back to the train station. This sounds logical when connecting this to light beams, but Albert Einstein said otherwise. He assumed that space and time were absolute, and the speed of light could vary. In the case of the train ride, Albert Einstein would have said it's possible that the trip from the train station to your house took 1 hour and 59 minutes, and 1 minute from your house back to the train station. It can be of any value. Some scientists didn't support this idea initially, but it kept popping up a lot. So the question is, how do we measure the speed of light without the return trip? We could probably use those high-speed cameras to capture it frame by frame until we get a definitive result, but it's not that simple. We won't know for sure because the light we see from the lens is already a reflection of the actual light. We don't see it in its purest form. Unfortunately, there is no way to measure the real speed of light at the moment. The number scientists came up with is just a way to conceive it without really knowing its actual value. We need that number to do calculations in math and physics to understand our world better. Back in the land where 1 second equals 1 hour, the laws of physics work in a different way, and you can watch every process step by step. You return to your kitchen and try to light up the stove to see how the fire starts. You can watch the sparks form with a tiny flame in the making. There's some water around it, slowly turning into vapor. If 60 seconds is 1 hour, then 1 minute will last for 2.5 days, and an hour will last about 5 months. 1 day will last just under a decade, and 1 month will be around 300 years long. A full year will be equal to around 3,600 regular years. In this reality, our bodies will age according to how they function internally. So if your body's lifespan extended for many years, and 365 days would be equal to 3,600 years, all that time wouldn't even be enough for you to grow out a ponytail if you had a buzz cut.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and